This video will focus on monopolistic competition, the fourth and final case study, in the context of the billion-dollar Australian coffee industry. Now, at first glance, monopolistic competition may seem like an oxymoron by definition. However, it is a type of imperfect competition characterized by elements from both monopolistic and competitive markets. The four main characteristics of monopolistic competition include: number one, many producers and consumers in the market. This means that there are high levels of competition and a low industry concentration ratio. Number two, barriers to entry and exit are low, which allows producers to react to changing profit levels. 3. There are non-price differences regarding the product. This means that there is slight product differentiation, which gives rise to number 4. And that is, because the products that monopolistically competitive firms sell aren't completely identical, firms are price makers. However, the price elasticity of demand is higher than it would be under a strict monopoly. That is, the cross-price elasticity is high. Question 1 asks us to find evidence in the article to support the claim that the coffee industry is a typical example of monopolistic competition. Now, the article does overtly state that there is a high level of competition in the industry and low barriers to entry. However, the third piece of evidence we need is not overtly stated, but the clue is in the fourth paragraph. Quality of the coffee is crucial to customer choice in Australia, with coffee brand, texture, temperature, milk, and even the level of cream in an espresso becoming increasingly important to customers. This information guides us towards the notion of product differentiation that was discussed earlier. Hence, deferring the quality of coffee sold is important, making D our official answer. So why not A, B, or C? Well, it certainly isn't B and C, because both options start with a low level of competition in the industry, and this goes against the first characteristic of monopolistic competition in this video. A seems the closest, having the first two characteristics correct, but it lets us down with the third one, which was wrong. Coffee businesses don't sell the same type of coffee. Perhaps this is the only time a D is better than an A.
Question 2. The article states that Starbucks had to close down many of its Australian stores as they were unable to compete with the Australian palate. Suppose that an individual coffee supplier was in long-run equilibrium before Starbucks closed its stores. Which graph would best represent the individual coffee supplier's situation in the short run after Starbucks closed its stores? Assume the individual coffee supplier is profit maximizing. The black lines represent the original long-run equilibrium. The red lines represent the short-run impact of Starbucks leaving the coffee industry. In long-run equilibrium, firms earn zero economic profits. As a result of Starbucks shutting down, we must determine the short-term impacts on the individual coffee supplier. Unlike the long run, a firm does have the ability to make a profit or a loss in the short run. In monopolistic competition, firms compete for the same group of customers. If customers can no longer purchase their coffee from Starbucks, the demand for the individual coffee supplier will increase, shifting both the demand and the marginal revenue curves to the right. This shift means that the individual coffee supplier will receive a profit in the short run. Therefore, the profit maximizing quantity in the short run is found where the marginal revenue equals the marginal cost. The price is found by the firm's own demand curve. A cannot be the answer. The graph shows that the demand and the marginal revenue curves for the supplier shifts to the left, meaning that there is a decrease in demand. As mentioned, this is incorrect, as both of these curves should shift to the right. A profit maximizing firm sells at quantity MR equals MC. This is true for the graph. However, the price at this quantity is incorrect, as it should be read from the short-run demand curve D2, not the long-run demand curve D1. Although the facts definitely reflect an increase in profits, this quantity is not profit maximizing because the price is less than the average total cost. B cannot be the answer. Similarly to A, the graph shows that the demand and the marginal revenue curves for the supplier shifts to the left in the short run. Instead, these curves should shift to the right. Furthermore, the profit maximizing quantity reflected in this graph is where the short run demand curve intersects the marginal cost curve. This is incorrect, as the profit maximizing quantity is where the short run marginal revenue curve, which is MR2, equals marginal cost. So at MR equals MC, the price is read from the short run demand curve D2. Although the facts definitely reflect an increase in profits, this quantity is not profit maximizing because the price is less than the average total cost. Unlike answers A and B, the marginal revenue and demand curves correctly shift to the right to show an increase in demand for the supplier. However, the profit maximizing quantity at MR equals MC is not reflected in this graph. The quantity is instead the intersection between the short-run demand curve D2 and the marginal cost curve, which is similar to what we saw in answer B. For answer D to be correct, the profit maximizing quantity would have had to be at the intersection between the short-run marginal revenue curve, MR2, and the marginal costs curve. The price is then to be obtained from the short-run demand curve at this quantity. C is the correct answer. The demand and marginal revenue curves shift to the right to accommodate for the increase in demand. The profit maximizing quantity is true for MR equals MC, and the price is obtained from the short-run demand curve at this particular quantity.
For question 3, we are given the example that Rob indicates that local operators are able to compete with larger change through the use of value-added offerings such as customer loyalty cards or coffee and meal specials. We are then asked what degree of price discrimination would you best describe this as, and we are then given the options as A, first degree, B, second degree, and C, third degree. The answer in this case is C, the third degree. But before we go into the reasoning behind this, it is crucial to know what price discrimination is. Put simply, price discrimination is a business practice of selling the same good at different prices to different customers. However, since there are different ways of measuring this, it is separated into 3 segments, being first-degree price discrimination, second-degree price discrimination, and third-degree price discrimination. For third-degree price discrimination, which is our answer, in order to segment consumer demand, companies often use characteristics such as geography, nationality, age, gender, and purchasing history to vary the price of goods based on this data. For this example, they use value-added offerings such as customer loyalty cards or coffee and meal specials. Conveniently, loyalty programs are designed to capture this information exactly, and other examples include making the prices for coffees cheaper for students because they are generally on a lower income, or making meals cheaper for children as they consume less. Another important factor to note is that price discrimination is not possible when a good is sold in a perfectly competitive market. Because in a perfectly competitive market, there are many businesses selling an identical good as other businesses at the market price. No business is ready to charge a cheaper price to some consumer because the business is able to sell all at once at the market price, which would be higher. On the contrary though, if any businesses tried to charge a more dear price to a consumer, that consumer would just purchase it from another business. For a business to price discriminate, it has to have market power. This can actually raise economic welfare by removing deadweight loss from the selling of goods, but is more beneficial for the supplier as it also removes consumer surplus. Moving on, the reason that it is not a first-degree price discrimination is because first-degree price discrimination is when the monopoly seller of a good or service knows the absolute maximum price that every consumer is willing to pay and can charge each customer that exact amount. This allows the seller to obtain the highest revenue possible. This can be seen as in the graph, which shows consumers who price the good higher than the marginal cost of buying the good and are charged their maximum eagerness to purchase it. At the end of this, there is no deadweight loss, and the entire surplus derived from the market goes to the monopoly producer in the form of profit. Furthermore, it is not B, second-degree price discrimination, because what this involves is a bulk sales strategy, such as quantity discounts, that will be applied, and consumers will choose the amount that better suits them. An example of second-degree price discrimination would be the price of a good or service varies according to the quantity demanded, such as buying 3 coffees and getting 1 free. In essence, it is when the larger quantities are available at a lower price, which means higher discounts are given to consumers who buy a good in bulk quantities.
So now it's discussion time. In the article, Rob indicates that local operators are able to compete with larger chains through the use of value-added offerings such as customer loyalty cards or coffee and meal specials. What other types of price discrimination could coffee establishments use? Second-degree price discrimination can be used. To recap, this involves charging different prices for the same product depending on the quantity consumed. So local coffee shops could consider charging customers a lower price for buying more than 1 cup of coffee and or across different sizes. For example, buying 1 regular cup of coffee could be $4, but should a customer purchase 2 regular cups, it would cost them $6.50. Therefore, the customer would be saving $1.50 on the second cup of coffee. The logic here would be that the first cup bought is an originally essential purchase for the consumer, and therefore the demand is more inelastic here. However, after the first cup is bought, there is less demand for the next cup, and so the consumer becomes more price sensitive to this second cup. Hence, the local coffee shop could charge a lower price for the second cup to attract a larger purchase, of course in the disguise of a nice saving for the consumer. What about third-degree price discrimination? Well, this involves charging different prices for the same product depending on a particular market segment, whether it be age, income group, or even time of use. Let the same coffee shop put up a sign saying discount on regular cups of coffee 2 days a week. But which days a week? Exactly. Only the most price-sensitive consumers will go out of their way to find out which 2 days have regular cups of coffee on discount. Only the most price-elastic consumers will buy on these days. Most consumers will not be bothered to buy the cup of coffee on a discount day and will continue to buy when most convenient for them. Discounts based on age are another method of third price discrimination because the coffee shop would be segmenting its market by age. A discount for students is popular because it is easy to segment the youth. There just needs to be some sort of valid proof of age. Giving students, say, 20% off a regular cup of coffee could allow the coffee shop to gain more sales from the student market and perhaps even increase their youth market share, since students generally have lower incomes than working adults and therefore are more price sensitive to changes in prices.